Welcome everyone to Expanding Your Consciousness, and today is December 6th, 2022. And tonight our topic is the Trinity. So we have Eric, who's in Belgium, and it's 4 a.m. there, but he is joining us tonight here in Vancouver, and he will be talking about the Trinity. And later on, Kenny will be joining us, and he will talk about his version of the Trinity. But before we begin with our speakers, I'd like to show just a short video. It's about 3 minutes long. And someone had taken the writings of C.S. Lewis, and he had written about the Trinity. And so they've done a diagram, and they're also reading what he had written about it. So we'll begin with that. C.S. Lewis on the Trinity.
You know that in space, you can move in 3 ways: to left or right, backwards or forwards, up or down. Every direction is either one of these 3 or a compromise between them. They are called the 3 dimensions. Now notice this. If you are using only one dimension, you could draw only a straight line. If you are using 2, you could draw a figure, say a square. And a square is made up of 4 straight lines. Now a step further. If you have 3 dimensions, you can then build what we call a solid body, say a cube, a thing like a dice or a lump of sugar. And a cube is made up of 6 squares. Do you see the point? A world of 1 dimension would be a straight line. In a 2-dimensional world, you still get straight lines, but many lines make 1 figure. In a 3-dimensional world, you still get figures, but many figures make 1 solid body. In other words, as you advance to more real and more complicated levels, you do not leave behind you the things you found on the simpler levels. You still have them, but combined in new ways, in ways you could not imagine if you knew only the simpler levels. Now, the Christian account of God involves just the same principle. The human level is a simple and rather empty level. On the human level, 1 person is 1 being, and any 2 persons are 2 separate beings. Just as in 2 dimensions, say on a flat sheet of paper, 1 square is 1 figure, and any 2 squares are 2 separate figures. On the divine level, you still find personalities, but up there you find them combined in new ways which we, who do not live on that level, cannot imagine. In God's dimension, so to speak, you find a being who is 3 persons while remaining 1 being, just as a cube is 6 squares while remaining 1 cube. Of course, we cannot fully conceive a being like that. Just as, if we were so made that we perceived only 2 dimensions in space, we could never properly imagine a cube. But we can get a sort of faint notion of it. And when we do, we are then, for the first time in our lives, getting some positive idea, however faint, of something super-personal, something more than a person. It is something we could never have guessed, and yet, once we have been told, one almost feels one ought to have been able to guess it, because it fits in so well with all the things we know already.
Any comments? Eric?
It's a very good introduction, so it has its place in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Brent, did you want to comment? Or?
No.
Okay. All right. Dave? Okay. All right. So we'll go to the screen share, Eric, and
Yep.
you're ready to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to do an introduction before the?
No. It was a beautiful introduction.
Okay. I don't know if there's a way I can open this bigger, but
No, it's okay for me.
that's good. Okay.
Yeah, and you can go to the second already, because yeah, I had my introduction, and even the third one now. Thank you. Yeah, because I had my introduction, and I agree with the video. We go from 2 to 3. The human level, and that's what I'm trying to state here, that we call duality. And for me, and that's the introduction for me, is the Trinity for me is the most center concept of understanding multidimensionality, the humanity, God, whatever you want, is the Trinity. If you understand the Trinity, that's the door to all solutions, I think. There we go. So, as the video stated, and I state the same, so the basic humanity is based on dualism or duality. And we have a joke about that on Sesame Street, and that Cookie Monster is asked to bring a cookie from here to there. So he does, and arriving on there, he makes the remark, hey, I'm not there anymore, I'm here. So but I was asked to move it from here to there. So he goes to there, where he arrives in here, and so on, so on. And that's a Sesame Street joke, but this is also a very deep, deep understanding of dualism. Because dualism, or duality if you want to, has its base, and there already it goes wrong if you want to. In spirituality, we talk about separation. We are separate from God. And that we call dualism or duality. That's already wrong. And that's stated here with Mr. Cookie Monster. It said dualism is based on a dual element. And a dual element is like left and right. If you want to define left, you cannot without defining right. So you're at the bottom of your system. You cannot define something without adding the other. So what there is mentioned is a dual element has no absolute definition. I repeat, because that's for me important, and you go to the next, I think. Left and right arise at the same time. Up and down arise at the same time. So meaning there are two of them or none of them. And that works, and that's basic for the third dimension, which is stated also in the video, and is considered to exist everywhere. And I'm looking at my presentation itself, and there we go wrong again. We state that everywhere there should be a base of dualism, but we forget to add it to other things, and there is here a set. If we are adding cause and effect, then we suddenly leave that principle. When we had first left and right, as he stated, the left side of the street and the right side of the street, suddenly we say, oh no, cause becomes before effect. Why? If we step back and look at cause, it should be a dual element. Because if there is a cause, there is an effect. If there is an effect, there should be a cause. They arise at the same time. Why do we then state that cause is before effect? Now we just added something which is not addable. We said, oh yeah, it's linear time, so cause and effect are first and second. But then we can state again, what is the left side and the right side of the street? When I'm standing on the left side of the street, the left side of the street is first. So you see, it doesn't add up anymore. The same thing happens all the time with human emotional things. Cause and effect is one. The second big thing is question and answer. I take the same principle. When you have question and answer, they arise at the same time. When I have a question, in theory, there is an answer on it. When you have an answer, there should be a question for it. Just pure theoretical abstract. But we don't say that. Suddenly we leave that. Also, oh yeah, I have a question. That means I have to move in linear time to the answer. So we're using a system that is not a system. Or dualism is correct, or the other one is correct, but not both. And I state here, when there is a question, there is an answer. And I hope we agree on that we make a mistake here by adding a third element, linear time. And you can go to the next, I think. That is center of my pre-Trinity standpoint is duality is a perspective. And I will try to explain that where we make the mistake, not the mistake with left and right, but do make the mistake with question and answer is we added something. We added the I. I added myself on one side of the street and I say to myself, oh, right, the other side of the street is the opposite of the street. Why? Because I put myself on one side of the street. And there is a mistake we make, not with left and right, where the I is totally out of the picture. But when it comes to cause and effect, to question and answer, we add the I. And there is the difference. And there we move slowly to the Trinity because we added the third element. So understand that duality is a perspective. Why is that a perspective? Because if we have to understand the duality, we have to add the I, and then it becomes perspective. When I'm on the left side of the street, it becomes a perspective because I'm looking at the other side. The same thing with question and answer. When I put myself on the side of the answer, I look at the question. When I stand on the side of cause, I look at the effect. And that's looking at or a perspective. So the setting is duality, but the perspective is adding the I. So we're talking two different things. Or the setting duality without the I, or the perspective adding the I. And then you can go to the
Next one.
Yeah. Why do we use duality? Cosmically, basically, humanly. We need a perspective to learn. In kindergarten, we are asked to learn the A, B, C. In whatever project, we need to go from the first step to the next step to the next step. And that's a perspective of learning, meaning when I learn something, I start from the beginning and go to the end. It's not used, it's done, but the best way to learn is from the start to the finish. That we agree of. So learning is putting the I in a dual system from question to answer. And then I move step by step. And that we call, in general, learning. We all agree that you best learn from the beginning to the end. Not everybody does that, but the thing is, we agree on that learning is from one side and we move on to the next, move on to the next. And why? Because then we understand the process. Hi, Kenny. Hello. You want to say something?
No. I'm just making a few notes because I wanted to ask you things afterwards.
Okay. So we need 3 elements and not 2 to learn. Again, the basic is dualism, but the perspective to learn is adding a 3rd element, the I. And the I goes through linear time from the beginning to the end and learns. But if we take out the I, there is also no linearity, no linear time, and then we stick with a static human perspective, which we call dualism or duality. And you can go to the next diagram. So understand there are 2 perspectives. What learning is for me zoomed in, and that we talked about last time, a zoomed in perspective. I want to know all details. Let's say I'm going to the other side of the street from left to right, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter. So I take a snapshot of the process of crossing the street like a microscope, and I take a picture and the next picture and the next picture. Let's say I needed 10 pictures to get on the other side, and that I call learning. So learning is taking zoomed in perspective. The zoomed out perspective, if I keep the eye, is an eagle view, and then I see the street. One shot, the whole street. Next slide, please. But you have to consider the difference between the two perspectives. Again, we take those perspectives as normal, but if you think about it, and you put all 10 photos next to each other, and you take one view, and you say, this is a street, this can be correct, and this can be wrong. And I take the example here of a car. You can take all snapshots of one car, and then we take the eagle view. It's not a car. Why is it not a car? It's not running. That's why the zoomed in and the zoomed out perspective can be different, because if we take a microscopic photo from one to another, it is not the whole. To see the whole, we need to leave the dual perspective, even on a eagle view, and we have to go through the Trinity, which the video tried to explain, and I will explain, I think, in the next slide that I said, so we can go to the next. One repeat I forgot, and that's even more emotional. If I say question and answer arise at the same time, here, and that's shocking for most of people, is when there is a victim, there is a perpetrator. When there is a perpetrator, there is a victim. They arise at the same time. And there we are faced and challenged with the system of the Trinity, because if we take it from the dual system, then I say, oh, I am the victim, you are the perpetrator. And then I say, no, no, no. I don't even say that like cause and effect, cause is first and effect is later. When I am the victim, I deny there should be a perpetrator. I want to get out of it. I want to kill him. I want to have him locked in a prison. Or if I'm the bad guy, if I want to manipulate someone, I say, okay, get rid of him. Then I'm boss of the system and I am alone. But dualism states that they both arise at the same. So meaning I can imprison everyone. There will be a counterpart all the time. So how do we solve this emotional problem? And this problem we solve in the Trinity, again, as the video stated. Next, Diana. And here's the answer, what the video tried to explain, but didn't. There is no two-way system. Dualism does not exist. It's a perspective. The real and the only correct setting of humanity is not a twofold, but a threefold system. And here it comes. In Christianity, it's mostly understood as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But those, nowhere on the internet, I found a correct explanation of that Trinity. Not even in the video. He stated it, but it didn't explain it. Here I explain it. We have, and we go to the next one, because there I explain it. These are the correct settings of humanity and of divinity, because they are the same. When we state you create your own reality. In our system, pure abstract means the creator, the Father, the created, the world or the Son, and creating, the creating process are one and the same. And this is central for all humanity and for God. Here we start with debating. Here the questions are open, but give me 1 minute to repeat and to state. What I try to tell here is, I am the creator of my own reality, the created, the world. I create the world, and looking from my perspective to the world, I create my own reality. It's a 3-1 system, and that counts for everything in the world. And there we leave dualism, which was an old or not correct understood perspective. This is the only perspective there is in the world. Whether we leave one out because we want to delete out in our mind, saying, oh yeah, there should be no perpetrator, there should be no effect, I should be the one in control. There is no one in control but you, but it's not the I you, because what we mostly did, and that's our discussion of last time about free will, the created guy at the top, bottom right there is, okay, wait, do I have free will? The created, no, because he's created, he has no free will. He is created. Who has free will? The creator perspective. He says, oh, I create, I do, I act, I made a chair, I drank a cup of coffee, I did it. And the coffee is the created, he's being manipulated, whatever you call. Even a coffee said, I can't, the coffee cannot say, I don't want to be drank. That's impossible. But here I state, the Trinity states, if there is a coffee, there is someone who drinks it. And the third element, there is a drinking. 20 seconds, I stop. So the real learning principle here is, I can, if I want to, from a soul perspective, from a God perspective, put myself in one of the corners. If I want to, and that's perspective. If I want to be the victim, bottom right. If I want to be the perpetrator, middle up. If I want to be the observer, bottom left. These are the only 3 perspectives that are possible for one abstract experience. I can be the experiencer, I can be the experienced, and I can be looking at the experience, neutral. If I understand that, there are 4 solutions. Or I put myself in the creator angle, I put myself in the created angle, I put myself in the creating angle, and there the divinity comes in. I put myself in the middle. But then, and that is the big thing, and that's the big discussion, what does that mean to put myself in the middle? That means I have to leave the I perspective, because there is no I perspective or the divine perspective in the middle. I didn't draw it, but I didn't draw it, but I tried to add it. What I also do is, if you can imagine a tetraeder, meaning that's the same, but it's a 3-way pyramid. And what we do is the ground floor is the 3 perspectives or the human perspective. And the top one is the divine perspective, because I left the I perspective. And that is ascension. Ascension is going to the next level, escaping the I perspective, because the I perspective has 3 perspectives, and The divine perspective has or none, or three, or none of them. And that's what the video stated in the beginning also. We cannot imagine that third perspective if we don't drop the I. The I cannot understand the divine perspective. We can, because I just explained it, but explaining it is not doing it. Who is explaining? Who is explaining? Who is presenting this presentation? Eric is. So he is the creator of this presentation. Understand very well what is the divine perspective is non-duality. Or stated here, there is no difference between I, Eric, and you, three guys and a girl, who are the listeners. We are one and the same. We are one. We can imagine that. I hope so, because I said so. But doing that is the way out of all suffering, because what is suffering? Suffering is just that, putting ourselves in a perspective we choose by ourselves, through ourselves, to ourselves. And that is learning. Learning means, what do you want to learn? You are the learner, you are the learned, and you are learning, or you are creator, creator of your own reality. And then you can go slowly to number 13 and 14, because there are more or less. Number 13 is an example of, I gave a big list of what you could consider as the 3 levels of the Trinity. But in the end, and then go 14, that's a good thing to stop. There, what is called the one view, or the oneness view of God, or whatever you want, is getting to that 4th state, or ascension. Thank you.
Hi, Kenny. Thank you for joining. Did you get to see part of this?
I saw the last part.
Okay, all right. Any comments or questions for Eric?
Eric, at one stage you had 2 slides on there that I'd like to reconcile. One was the perpetrator and the victim, and then the other one was the creator, the created, and the process of creation. So where on that triangle, on the 3rd one, do the persecutor and the victim go?
Okay, that's easy. So the creator is the manipulator, or the who that starts the experience. And I have to thank you for the question. There are 2 answers. On the lower level, in linear time, we always say the cause is before effect. So the perpetrator does something to the victim, but in the Trinity view, they arise. They are, but in order to learn, we make that 2 people. The same thing. You ask a question, I give you the answer. What we don't understand is, in a higher dimension, there is no Kenny and there is no Eric. It's a game. It's a game of hide and seek. If you need to ask a question, you have to forget the answer. And then you can ask Eric a question, and then Eric answers that question. That's the higher dimension. In a higher dimension, and that's what we call, sorry, okay, my English is not, that's not my native, mother language. Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance means I am on a higher dimension, and I can see the future. There is no future. I just left linear time. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I jumped from my perspective to the future. I saw something, I come back, and there my answer is. So if I ask my guide, Or as stated in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, I ask the Holy Ghost, help me, what should I do? The Holy Ghost answers me. I've been into the future, said the Holy Ghost, and I can see that, so please do that. There is no Holy Ghost because there is only oneness. But if I want to split myself to learn, I can. So the only thing we have to understand, which is ascension happening now, we are done with dualism because we are learned everything. But now we must remember that we learned ourselves to learn. And now we can link all these dimensions together. So everyone should start to channel. Everyone should start to become psychic, and everybody is. I teach it. I teach people to become psychic, not to become psychic, but to understand the Trinity. Why should I be psychic? Okay, because I can. No, because you are the creator of your own reality. There is only one reality, yours. Who is that? You and only you in a higher dimension. Sorry for the long answer. Maybe I answered too much, but that's my answer.
I'm not sure what you mean when you say higher dimensions.
Okay, higher dimensions for starters, as Einstein said, is we drop linear time as linear time. Time is not linear. We made it linear, and that you didn't get. The first part is we made things linear because we put ourselves on the left side of the street. So quickly for you, when you have a street, you have a left side of the street and a right side of the street. And it's only by putting yourself on one side of the street that things become linear. They are not linear. It is a perspective in order to learn, to cross the street. But it's a perspective, we put ourselves there. So ascension means, hey, do you understand? You put yourself in a certain situation, perspective, and then literally, good and bad, you're cornered, and you only can see that from that perspective. And when you're on the left side of the street, you cannot see the left side of the street because you are there. That's the eyes. I cannot see myself. I can only see the reflection of myself. That is how humanity is built. The human system is built to learn, but we are not human. It is a human perspective system to learn. The next phase since 2012, say, guys, wait, dualism is off the table, and we will introduce, hey, do you finally get your creating your own reality? Referring to free will last time. There is no free will if you're in a cornered situation. Clearly, when you are the creator, you cannot be the created because you put yourself in a corner, but you don't have to. And that's the new thing here. That's why Trinity is so important, because we have here the solution to all problems. I will quote Jesus, whether he said that or not, but because this is important. Kill me, and I will rebuild my system in 3 days, meaning I cannot be cornered. Sorry, I'm not playing your game. You can kill me, but I am the creator of my own reality. So I go to the next level, and I don't say he became physical. I think, in my perspective, he came back with his light body, and he said, okay, in my light body, you can't kill me. That's, for instance, and I'm deviating here. When you activated your light body, then you say, okay, I cannot die. Why not? I just left the learning curve. I just left linear time. I cannot become a perpetrator. I cannot become a victim because I moved on. And it's only moving on. There are levels above that. God. will stop there because I talk too much.
Any more comments, Kenny?
I think I missed too much in the the part that I missed. So it's very difficult for me to follow all this because I missed so much.
I was here and I can't follow it.
Okay, all right. I guess, because at one point you said if you take all three, like the creator, created, and creating,
Yep.
whatever. If you take those three and then our spirit is all three, is that right? Like,
Yeah.
where's the spirit? It's the whole.
That's what we call in human language spirit. Yeah.
Okay, it's the whole.
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree that we are creators. Like we create our world, right? But we're also manipulated collectively to think duality. Do you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah.
That there is a manipulation
Yeah.
going on.
It's inbuilt system. Yeah. That's also. Did we talk about that? I'm just thinking because that's the third time we meet. That is what I call multidimensionality. Okay, that I didn't explain. I can explain, but that's another thing. Is I don't see the human system as a standalone. That's what that we did. It's not what we did
Yeah,
is.
you said that's you did.
Yeah,
That's a computer.
So I will try to deviate from that a little bit. I see the human system as a range of colors, and 3D is one of those colors. So if you're going to the individuality and then moving on, not stepping on, moving on, because it's a slider, and we go to the collective, deeper collective, bigger, even bigger, to oneness. So for me, a human being is a 9-dimensional being, like a slider, 3D, 4D, 5D, up to 9D, where you totally leave your individuality or even your identification as something. That's what the Trinity tries to understand. You need to identify yourself to be someone. But the other way is not true, meaning if I leave identity, that I don't exist anymore. That's a human perspective. So indeed, the human factor is between, to answer your question, Diane, is between the individual choice, in my perspective, to being Eric, but I have, and Eric knows that, so I'm changing, listen what I'm saying. Eric is gone here. I am the Council of 9. I'm speaking through Eric. So who am I? I am a collective. I'm a collective speaking through Eric. Who is Eric? Eric is both. I just left linear time.
I don't understand any of this. I'm going to leave.
First of all, I want to thank Eric for presenting your view on the Trinity. I think we will probably go back to that, right? But Kenny, did you want to express your views on the Trinity, and then we can kind of talk back and forth on that?